You are now watching On Point, a news and public affairs show from California State University, Northridge.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to On Point. I'm your host, Mark Monroy. The real estate market in California has been nothing short of a roller coaster. From beachfront properties, apartments to urban lofts, the demand is high and so are the stakes. It's getting tougher to find something within the budget, especially in the more desirable neighborhoods. Now we are joined by Serena Prickisie, who pays rent for an apartment, and Taylor Kellstrom, who is a real estate agent at Next Home in Santa Clarita and deals with the market every day. First off, I just want to say welcome in and thank you for taking your time to actually come in today.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to be here.
All right, so I want to start off with you, Serena. You are a student here at CSUN who also has an apartment in Granada Hills. Can you just explain to me the current situation that you're in right now and just overall what your thoughts are?
So I stay in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. I have my own room and bathroom, and I also have my own parking space, which is really nice. Though I feel like rent is probably, what I get is really nice, but for other places like downtown LA, I'm definitely paying more than what most people are right now. My rent is about like around $1,300. So other places like in downtown LA for what I'm getting and a bigger space as well, it's like $900 a month. So
yeah, $1,300, that's actually pretty low compared to the average. Yeah, according to Zillow, the average rent right now in the entirety of LA County is $2,700. So to get one at $1,300 is it's a bargain deal. And I want to turn to you, Taylor. You are a real estate agent, of course. You deal with the market every single day. What are some of the things that clients are telling you, not just with rent, but with mortgages as well?
You know, we're in a very uncharted area at the moment. There's a lot of really great factors in the market, and there's some things that are not. So right now, we have a time where we have such low inventory of homes on the market for sale, which is great for sellers because that means less competition, which means you're going to probably get bidding wars and things like that. However, what we saw in 2021, beginning of 2022, we had very low interest rates. So that's why we saw bidding wars, we saw multiple offers on things. Now interest rates have gone up. They have creeped down in the last couple of weeks, but they are exceptionally higher than what they were 2 years ago. So we got this weird thing where there is buyer demand, but there's not a ton of demand because of the interest rates, but we don't have a lot of inventory on the market either. So it's still a great time to sell if you're a seller, and it's still a great time to buy if you're a buyer, because when those rates eventually creep down, we are going to see prices go up. So locking in now, if you're a buyer and waiting for the interest rate to come down eventually, that way you'll build your equity over time and then you'll watch your home price go up, but you already have bought it at a lower price. So it's such a weird time.
So why do you think the inventory is so low, or maybe your perspectives?
So especially right now, we have a lot of gridlock. When people were buying in 2019, 2020, 2021, they were getting locked in at interest rates at 3%, 3.5%. So why would you sell, right, and go buy something with a almost 7% interest rate? So you have these sellers that don't need to sell. Their mortgage is significantly lower because of the interest rate, but we are seeing people sell for multiple reasons, as far as we are seeing people move out of state. We are seeing first-time buyers outgrowing their first home or having their first children and needing more space. So people who need to buy or need to sell are still doing that. But the casual to try and make, I won't say make money, but the casual just to buy to get into something more desirable isn't really happening because you're locked in at such a low interest rate. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of at this gridlock with that.
So you do mention that a lot of people are moving in-state and out of state, but you mentioned to me earlier that you moved in from Pennsylvania, right?
No, so I used to stay a long time ago, but my family used to stay in the Bay Area. They actually moved out of state to go to Texas.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you stay in the Bay Area as well?
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the differences that you have seen with the Bay Area prices and the Southern California, LA prices now that you do rent here?
I would say when I was in the Bay Area, I didn't rent because I was staying with my uncle and aunt and they had a house. But when they did sell their house, the house was on the market for 3 days and it was gone after that. So what was happening was that people from San Francisco, because rent is so high in San Francisco, were moving outside of San Francisco, which is where we stayed. And they were purchasing houses there just because of COVID-19. There was no reason for people to be staying in like $1 million homes or renting like $3,000 a month for small spaces where you could just buy a house for a cheaper price outside of San Francisco and commute, because businesses were like closed. Everybody was, working remotely. And my uncle actually moved to Texas because he got the opportunity to just work remotely. And he was just like, well, there's no point in staying here if we can just work remote. So they moved. When I moved here, I just thought to myself that I first started off in the dorms, which is really nice, but even living in the dorms is expensive. I don't know if it's just like a university college thing where like they overcharge people for the space, but I just think everything is just overpriced, even if you like stay on campus or off campus. So on campus housing is about $1,100, and I thought to myself like, well, if I'm sharing everything down to a bathroom, a sink, a kitchen, and even a bedroom, I might as well just move off campus, stay by myself, and like just pay the difference. So that's why I looked for, something that was close to school, but also I get to have my own space. I don't mind paying the difference, but yeah, rent is definitely high, and it also depends on where you stay as well. Just because I feel like Granada Hills is just where I feel like there's a lot of Hispanic community that stays there. I feel like that's why the rent is just a little bit lower compared to like other places like North Hollywood is pretty pricey.
So you do think that like the area?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Now, you guys have two great points, but we are going to have to hold it. We are going to cut to commercial real quick. When we do come back, we will continue this discussion, and we will actually be looking at a story done by one of our reporters. Stay tuned.
I tell my son, I love you every single day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Now, Taylor, how long have you been in the real estate business?
I've been doing real estate for almost 9 years now.
9 years. And how has the market fluctuated in your time?
COVID changed everything. So we're seeing how people are able to work remotely. So we were seeing a lot of people in the Los Angeles area actually move up to places like Santa Clarita, where they have really great schools, right? So with COVID changing things, people are selling their home, moving to a more desirable home for a cheaper price, and their kids are going to a better school. So we're seeing a lot of that 2020 on, but markets kind of changed a little bit based on COVID, right, and those interest rates. So when you factor in when I first got started to now, it's completely different as far as things are way more expensive. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. Location is huge thing. School system is really big. People will pay more money to have their kid in a better school system. And as far as like even what HOAs offer, things like that. So when you look at back when I got started 9 years ago to today, everything has kind of changed because of COVID. Everything kind of was streaming along, and then COVID hit. Those interest rates dropped dramatically. People bought up things, bidding wars, all that. Now that interest rates have gone up, we still have such low inventory of houses that the home prices have held very, very well. So we actually are not seeing home values go down. We're still seeing them trickle along on that 3 to 5% appreciation each year.
Mm-hmm. And then for you, do you want to own a home in the future?
I do.
So what's kind of your reaction to all this? Our generation, Generation Z, we're entering the housing market at a pretty troubling time. Mm-hmm. What's kind of your thoughts to all of this and just the overall price of housing?
I feel like we've had to work harder. Like we're seeing now that we have to work really, really hard to earn a house or to buy a house. And I was actually talking to one of my friends, and he's 25. He wanted to buy a house, and he told me that he can't purchase a house anymore because the money that he had is just not enough because of interest rates now. So I feel like you have to kind of change, like go with the change, If something's not working for you, if you're saying that things are expensive, then you're gonna have to ask yourself, what more can I do? Because actually really the fact is nobody cares if you can't afford a house. You care, so you're gonna have to like change your circumstance, you know, have multiple streams of income coming in. And I feel like that's a lot of, like, those things aren't really taught in schools. Those are things that you have to like kind of learn by yourself. So yeah, I just feel like you have to, if the going gets tough, the tough gets going. So you're just gonna have to pick up the pace and, you know, run with it. So I see myself owning a house. I know things are pretty hard, but the hardness of things is just not going to stop me from going after buying or owning a house one day.
Yeah, and you're not alone. You know, one of our reporters, Alexa, actually had the opportunity to go out and interview people just like yourself who are trying to purchase a home, and we're actually going to throw to her story now.
Finding a place to live is a big step in our lives. However, it isn't as easy as it may sound. If you are working with bare minimum wage or have to pay for various expenses, it might be difficult to afford an apartment. This is especially difficult if you have to cover for most utilities, such as power, water, and other expenses. I spoke with 2 tenants who told me a little bit about their difficulties with the rent.
O sea, no hay un equipo
There isn't anybody out there that is checking the increase that there is. So yeah, sometimes it's complicated, especially when you don't make enough money for rent.
You know, it makes it a little harder for the fact that I have to, you know, negotiate more of like my pay at work and stuff like that. Make sure that I move up at a faster rate.
The situation doesn't get better for tenants, and they are now facing up to 6% increase in rent by next year, approved by the LA City Council on November 14th. According to a news report by ABC7, the LA City Council voted to end the rent freeze that was placed during the COVID-19 pandemic, and will now give landlords the ability to increase rent, either by 4% or 6%.
Porque es algo, o sea, si estamos batallando para pagar.
If we are struggling to pay rent right now, imagine if they increase it. I mean, how are we going to pay? Many housing advocates and tenants are worried that these increases will affect them financially and could give rise to homelessness.
Knowing that it's 6%, that does hurt a lot of people. I feel like that's kind of harsh, you know. You gotta think about having multiple streams of income, because that's the only way that you can maintain yourself.
Despite these difficulties, there are programs that help tenants with their financial struggles. Rental assistance programs assist people in finding affordable housing in their area. There are also various nonprofit organizations that help people with necessities for the people that absolutely need it. Reporting here in Inglewood, California, I'm Alexa Garcia Carrasco, and this is On Point.
Alexa, thank you. So let's discuss a little bit about what we just saw. So Serena, I'm going to throw this one to you first. What are some of your thoughts right now, especially since landlords will be able to now fiddle with the rent prices and for the possibility of your rent prices possibly going up? Can you just get your thoughts?
It's horrible, but at the end of the day, I understand, because cost of living in LA is hard too. So I understand from a landlord's perspective that we have to pay more because they also have a family as well. They also need to pay other things. It's kind of like, it's sad, but it's the reality. Really and truly, if people want things to change, it's like the people who are actually in power who are letting people just up the rent, then increase like minimum wage, because it doesn't make sense to increase things if you're gonna pay people like the bare minimum. Like I get paid $16 an hour and I can't work Monday through Thursday because I'm at school, so I only have 3 days out of the week to actually work. Last week, I had to beg my manager to give me 44 hours. So I worked more than anybody else at that place. I worked 44 hours and still that's not enough to make my rent. So yeah, I just feel like the minimum wage needs to go up, but I don't know if we'll see that change soon, because the minimum wage in the Valley is actually different from the one that's in LA. So like downtown LA or like on Melrose, because I used to work on Melrose, minimum wage there was $17 an hour, and then they upped it by $2, so we were now getting $19 an hour, but it wasn't worth it because now I have to drive an hour and get caught up in LA traffic, so it just didn't make sense.
And Taylor, you seen the video. What are some of your thoughts about what's happened? And our reporter Alexa actually mentioned that there is some help with rent and mortgages to help families with that. What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really unfortunate thing. You know, nobody, I hate to say this, nobody wins in this situation. The reason the rents are getting increased is I see it from the other side. from the landlord's perspective, look at insurance. We've had major insurance companies move out of California, so now insurance for a property is so much more expensive than it even was a year ago. So their cost went up, along with the cost of living has gone up. They're trying to just catch up with the times, which it just keeps getting kicked down the road, because then it gets put onto the landlord with costs going up, then who then puts it onto the tenant, and it's really it's an unfortunate thing for everybody. And like they said in the video, like, you do need multiple sources of income, especially living in LA. It's a very expensive place to live, or you have to have roommates. It's just the reality of where we live. I mean, I joke around and we pay that tax for our weather. I mean, our weather is incredible and we pay for it. And nobody really wins when everything gets lifted. When insurance gets lifted or raised, the tenant ends up have to pay more. And it's just tough on everybody, to be honest with you.
It's extremely tough for everybody, as you say, and some people do have to get roommates. Do you plan on getting roommates anytime soon, especially if it does go up, or are you willing to maybe work some extra hours or create a different source of income?
Right now I do have roommates, so that's been nice. If I was to move, I would definitely get roommates without a doubt, but also it does depend on income. I recently got some type of form of, income, so now it's like I have 2 streams of income, and this one is actually like something that I like doing. So now I'm on 3 forms of income, 3 streams of income, and so that's been great. However, it's just the price of these incomes it's not enough. You need at least 5 to actually make it. Yeah,
and also what I was seeing recently is corporations are starting to buy out homes as well, and buying up a lot of apartment lands and building up their own property. So we will be talking about that when we do come back. Keep your guys' minds as they are right now. You guys are doing amazing. So when we do come back, we will be talking about corporations. This is On Point. Stay tuned.
I'm an actor in an ad reminding you that if you're high, just don't drive.
Welcome back. And we did mention that we were going to be talking about corporations buying up a lot of single-family homes in the United States. Yahoo Finance published an article interviewing, with cameras as well, one of the presidential candidates, Robert Kennedy Jr., and he said that by 2030, 60% of the single-family homes will be owned by corporations such as BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. So, you as a real estate agent, you have knowledge in the market. Why do you think that corporations are buying up all these property?
Well, I think it's because it's a business decision, right? And what's the one thing that no matter with AI technology, as the world progresses, that's never going to change, and that's people are always going to have to live somewhere. That's just the bottom line. So no matter how the world changes with technology, people are always going to have to live somewhere. That's most likely why these bigger corporations are buying up these properties and doing it as a business decision in order to increase their cash flow and their business profits by renting these properties, building them and renting them out. So
Now, you wanting to be able to buy a home, how do you think you're going to be able to, or not really be able to compete with these corporations? What are some of your thoughts about this?
I mean, I feel like everybody is just doing what's in their best interest. So, I mean, if that's what they feel is best for the business, then they should. I'm really just focused on myself. And I feel like when you start to think about, what everybody else is doing, it's going to become like more difficult, like, how am I supposed to buy a house? All the corporations are like buying out everything. Then yeah, you're not going to get anywhere. But if you think, hey, I want to buy a house, then make it your goal to buy a house and do it. So I don't think I'm really too worried about corporations like buying out stuff. Good for them. They're trying to, build their business and get more money somehow. Everything in this life is all about, making yourself better. And if they feel like that's how they're going to get better, then they should buy the house. For me, if I want to buy a house, I'm going to look into the places where corporations aren't buying it out. Like if they're doing that, they're buying out the house, then I'm not going to look there. I'm going to look for it. Where does it say that Serena can buy a house? And I'm going to search there.
And Taylor, how can people who are struggling to buy a house, how can they get any help, or are there any options to actually put a down payment on a house?
Yeah, there's a lot of actual misinformation out there. you actually are able to buy a house with as little as 3% down of a purchase price. I know the big myth is 20%, but there are loan programs available for as little as 3% down. So when you look at the big picture of things, that's not a ton of money. Right now, with the way the market is, we're actually seeing sellers, because 55% of all the homes in California have at least 50% equity, which is another reason why a lot of people are staying put, but we talked about that earlier. The thing is, sellers are actually giving buyers a credit to cover their closing costs. We're seeing that, and we're also seeing 2-1 buy downs, which is sellers buying down temporarily buyers' interest rate to get them into the home in a more affordable payment each month. So if you factor in the seller helping you do these buy downs or cover your closing costs with just as little as 3% down, as long as your income is there, a lender is going to, and your credit is decent, a lender is going to get you through, and you actually could purchase a home with those variables.
Mm-hmm. Now, for people moving out of state, especially Texas and all that, do you plan on moving out of state, or do you plan on staying in California?
That's a great question, and I'm so happy you asked me that, because I have been to so many states, and every state I've been to, I actually appreciate California so much that I don't see myself staying anywhere else. So I do think I will be staying in LA specifically, just because I feel like it caters to all my needs and the industry that I'm in. It's the perfect place to be. I love the weather. I love the people. You know, I love the connections that I have here. And honestly, I don't see myself staying anywhere else. I think LA is perfect for me. So that's why I was like, I'm just gonna have to, you know, come up with a way to have multiple streams of income for me to live. So just adjusting to the economy, adjusting to the life here. And that's what you just have to do.
So you are a TV production major, right?
I am a TV production
major. LA is the perfect spot for you.
Yeah.
Entertainment capital of the world.
Yeah.
And for Taylor, what are some of the things that people have told you when they do move out of state as their client? What are some of the reasons they move out?
Empty nesters. Empty nesters, their kids have gone away to college and the kids aren't coming back. So they've got this big, 4,000 square foot house, and it's just the two of them. And they basically have about $800,000-$900,000 in equity. They can literally sell that, go buy a brand new house out of state for $400,000-$500,000, and now they are basically retired. They've got extra money in the bank, they're retiring. So a lot of our out-of-state movers are either people retiring, empty nesters, or people who can have the same job in another state where it's a lot more affordable. So I helped a family that ended up making more money moving to Pennsylvania in the same field, sold their house here, they made $400,000, bought a house cash over in Pennsylvania.
Straight cash.
Straight cash from their money here. And every month that he's getting his paycheck, they're putting it away for their kids' college, paying utilities, of course, and all that, but putting money away for their kids' college to where their kids won't have to take student loans in 15 years. So we're seeing that too, where people are trying to set up their kids' future as well, where it's a little bit more affordable.
And we're actually seeing kind of like, because Californians are moving to Texas, but I also saw a report that says Texas are moving to California. Mm-hmm. Have you had any clients that are from out of state that move into California?
I had a couple actually move here from Canada.
Oh.
He wanted to chase the dream, the American dream of starting he was a veterinarian. And he, a year later, opened up his own veterinary clinic out in Santa Clarita. And you're seeing people, though, come to California because it is the land of opportunity, and connections are huge. And this is a place where you meet people and you can make things happen. So we are seeing that too.
Connection is huge. You guys are doing great. Keep your minds ready for the next segment. We will cut to the commercial now. You're watching On Point. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching On Point, and welcome back. We are still here with Serena and Taylor. Now, Taylor, we were mentioning in the last segment people moving from Texas to California and California to Texas. We're basically swapping places. So Texans are becoming Californians, Whataburger's becoming In-N-Out's becoming Whataburger. So, and I actually want to go to Serena. You're from the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. And what is some of the differences that you have seen lifestyle-wise from the Bay Area to Southern California?
Oh, there is a big difference. I feel like in the Bay Area, you know, it's very, it's more like suburban type of living, you know, a lot of families and children, and like that's where you would want to raise your kids, I feel like. And I'm so glad that I was raised there. It was a really nice experience. Coming to LA was just like city life, you know, there's always something to do in Los Angeles all the time. I actually have to decline, like, no guys, I'm not coming outside today with you. As compared to the Bay Area, where it's like you have to drive for a long time to like do something, you know. Here in LA, there's just so much to do. There's so much sightseeing to do. All we have in the Bay Area is the Golden Gate Bridge. That's all you're gonna get, and a few other, you know, nice things. But compared to LA, there's so much to do, you know, so much opportunities. And actually, when I go out, I actually get opportunities by going out. In fact, staying home is actually hindering me from getting opportunities. And you don't find that in the Bay Area, I feel like. Maybe it was because of the time that I was in the Bay Area as well, because I 2 years in the Bay Area during COVID as well. People were inside, so I don't think we were able to do as much, and I wasn't able to experience as much. But now that I'm in LA, I'm just like, wow, like it's amazing to, you know, I could be at work and somebody's like, oh, you look like you could model for me. Like, I would like to see you on set or something like that. So, yeah, I feel like there's a lot more to do.
Yeah, and how does lifestyle sort of affect the pricing and the reason people want to move to a specific area?
Oh, I think it affects everything. I mean, lifestyle and opportunity and looking at the factors of your quality of life. Like for me, I'm a father of 2 and a husband. So for us, we live up in Stevenson Ranch. The schools are very good there. I grew up there, but that's why I also bought my first house, because that's where I want to raise my kids and the schools. So looking at those factors too, like is this a good place to raise a family? And we're 20 minutes from 30 minutes from everything in LA, provided there's no major traffic, but
yeah.
there's so much opportunity in LA. And from the real estate standpoint to the film industry, I mean, we've got the mountains an hour away, you know, the beach is within 30 minutes. I mean, there's just so much geographically too that comes into play with the real estate market, and that is why our home prices are higher here, but we have so much to offer.
Yeah, and then seeing obviously home prices are higher, Zillow, people see Zillow, and they see that price, and do they back off, or like how does that sort of affect your business?
Actually, Zillow is the general rule of thumb is Zillow is not entirely fully accurate. They're within 10% of a price. Well, if it's $1 million house, you're talking $100,000. Because Zillow is not, they're an algorithm, which they're close sometimes, but they're not physically walking into a house, seeing what the upgrades are, seeing the specific area, if it's on a cul-de-sac, or what the school is. As an agent, that's my job, to take all that extra data along with the comparisons in order to come up with the right price to sell your home for. So, but again, it's a good starting point, but it's generally the rule of thumb is within 10%. But yeah.
Awesome. You guys had some great points, but unfortunately we can just keep going on for hours and hours about this topic, but time is closing down. I want to once again thank you two for taking your time and coming in. This is On Point. I've been your host, Mark Monroy, along with my 2 guests, Serena and Taylor. Thank you very much.